Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Arts and Lifestyle Wednesday, presented by the Exit Room of Lee Summit. I am a big history buff, love history, and so I'm kind of attuned to things that explore history. And at Park University, in honor of their homecoming for this weekend in 2019, part of it is the celebration of the 50th anniversary of the class of 1969. So putting together an exhibit that would resonate with them, as well as explore history throughout Park College and Park University's varied and lengthy history, was the task of Carolyn Elwist, the chief archivist at Park University, and Ashlyn Weber, the archivist assistant. It explores and shows memorabilia, photos, and all kinds of things from Park University from the turn of the century and before through the class of 1969, the clubs, the activities, all kinds of things that went on campus and on close to the last years of Park University. It became Park University just after 2000, but it was Park College before, and that's why the exhibit, which is in the main building at Park University, is called Life and Learning at Park College. It'll be a great part of the homecoming, and it's always fun for me to explore historical things, so I will do so next in this fun conversation with Carolyn Elwis and Ashlyn Weber about the exhibit Life and Learning at Park College. That's next. Looking for a truly unique escape from your normal entertainment or corporate team-building regimen? Stay tuned for an exclusive offer only for Reasonably Irreverent listeners. I'm excited to tell you about an extraordinary destination, the Exit Room, located in the heart of beautiful downtown Lee Summit. The Exit Room is a distinctive entertainment option that offers a cool alternative to the normal couples night out, family get-togethers, and corporate team-building events. The Exit Room is a one-of-a-kind boutique escape room catering to special occasions and corporate team-building events and is unmatched in the Kansas City metro. With 5 individually designed and varied escape room adventures, your party or employees can unplug from their electronic world, interact with one another, match wits, and ultimately escape the humdrum of the ordinary. The Exit Room adventures cross decades and centuries and create fascinating fun. I know the owners well. They are local folks, their staff is warm and friendly, their lobby is inviting and beautiful, and their adventures are award-winning. Check online. There are over 1,000 reviews, and note that they are a rare 5-star ranked business. Visit their website and Facebook page, and any of my listeners who books online at theexitroomkc.com using the promo code Clinkscale19 gets 10% off any ticket purchase. The Exit Room in Lee Summit. Unplug, interact, and escape. Get a refreshing change of your expectations of a sports bar and restaurant at the 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence. Matt Llewellyn's welcoming spot at Clinton Parkway and Cassold covers all the bases, like their own handcrafted beers and all the televisions you need for great sports viewing, but it's the large, varied, and delicious menu that stands apart. From a favorite of mine like the awesome ahi tuna appetizer to great sandwiches, outstanding pizza, and truly fantastic entrees, the 23rd Street Brewery has it all. Matt and his friendly staff make it that much more enjoyable. Food until 10, fun until late. The 23rd Street Brewery is a can't-miss stop when you are in Lawrence. We're here with Joe Spiker, the president of Easton Roofing. And Joe, you worked for other companies in the construction industry. What inspired you to start your own company in Easton Roofing?
Well, you know, Danny, when you are working for somebody else, you oftentimes don't get to see the project through from beginning to end, and you don't get the final control over the customer experience. And I wanted to build a place where people can come and get work done on their house and not have to worry about being treated the wrong way and get a good customer service experience start to finish.
The company slogan is "Where Integrity Matters." Why is that so particularly important to you?
Well, for us, what that means is treating each other with respect at work, treating our clients with respect, and making the right choice, especially when no one's looking. So when you're presented all the time as a contractor with choices that have to be made, are you going to make more money on this if you cut a corner? And we just wanted to make a place and a slogan that said to our people and to whoever is our customer, we're not going to do that. We're going to make the right choice regardless of profit.
Easton Roofing, where integrity matters. It's a pleasure to be joined by a couple of archivists. One's an assistant, one's the chief, one's the boss. And as we talk about life and learning at Park College, and of course Park College is now Park University, but since this is a historical enterprise and a historical exhibit, it harkens back to the days of Park College. First of all, Carolyn Elwes, the archivist here at Park University. What was the inspiration for doing this particular display?
Well, this is the 50th anniversary for the class of 1969, and I was in school here then. I'm a 71 grad, but I know most all of these people, and so there's a number of them coming back, and I thought they might enjoy looking at some things that would be very familiar to them, things that were going on when we were in school, like club life and things like that. We have sections, and you can explain that. As
Ashlyn Weber is the archivist assistant, upgraded from when we last talked to her. It's moving up in the Park University world. So when this idea came about, what did your role become?
So we were also inspired by the moving of the historic Park House on the other end of campus, and we really wanted to get one of our largest collections that we have in here out is the memorabilia collection. We knew a lot of people would be interested in just seeing the colors everywhere and seeing some of the things that they grew up with, as Carolyn just said. We wanted something to be as broad a topic so that every generation could really find something they liked, especially with the fact that we have current students here all the time passing through this hallway. We wanted something that they could look at and really understand and makes them feel like they're part of Park's history as well.
Since you are the junior member of this enterprise and just shortly still involved in the academic side of it, what do you sense is the interest level these days for students in historical things like this? I think some people might think that maybe people don't like old-timey things, but what do you see and hear as far as the interest level of people looking at things from the 20s and 30s and 60s?
I would agree with you. I think history is not at the top of people's lists in terms of interest, but I think if you do it right, if you make something look not stale, you can really attract just the eyes. So we like to put a lot of colors in here. We like to put a lot of different variety of objects and pictures so that everybody can kind of spot something and really want to look at it. I think it's tough to make everybody love history just because there's really not a whole lot that went on in terms of what we're presenting out there, you know. So we're trying to make it so that if you spot something you kind of like, you'll want to come in and look at that more. If you don't like any of the rest of it, that's fine, but just something that somebody can see out of the corner of their eye.
Carolyn, maybe you'll like this story, but I tell this story to people, and they generally don't believe it. It's in my book, but this is absolutely true. I probably am one of the few students in college in my time in the 70s that, or any time for that matter, who used to cut classes in the afternoon and go to the library. I enjoyed doing that. And
We've heard that excuse.
And I used to go and spend all day in the stacks and look at old Life magazines from the 1930s and 1940s. And I'm a big movie fan from that period as well, and that sort of developed then. But I literally would spend 3 or 4 hours looking at black and white photographs all afternoon long. And when I walked outside, and I was not under the influence of anything, believe me, I was literally surprised that the real world was in color when I walked outside. And that was something that, was... and then I didn't really believe that there was going to be any automotive traffic. They didn't allow any automobiles on campus at Kansas, where I went to school, only the bus. So until the bus came, I literally would have this feeling that I was in the 1930s and 1940s. So I don't quite understand why people aren't more interested in history. To me, history is just real stories. People do seem to be interested in reality-type things today. What's your sense of the student body and the things that you do, and is there any kind of a frustration level, or are you just sort of on a mission from God to get people to enjoy history?
The campus just exudes history, and I see a different side from what Ashlyn sees, of course, but I get lots of questions by email mostly these days about when was this built, who did that, who's this person, where did this come from. So my job is really kind of busy that way. And if it's not about a building, it's about people. Sometimes it's relatives seeking information about some of our alumni, perhaps that were relatives of theirs. But anyway, I see a lot of interest in the history. And what we did was, actually, there's different sections out there in the exhibit. Sports is the most visible one in the hallway. And that ties in with the wall of fame we have there for school sports figures.
Mm-hmm.
And the alumni coming back, as I said, are the class of 69. And they will recognize the letter jackets. They will. We have a bowling ball, the only existing bowling ball from when we had bowling alleys in the basement of the gym. But I find if it's more visible, people will come and look at it.
Right.
And this will be probably an announcement during the reunion weekend that's coming up this weekend. But there's a section on music. There's a section on science equipment. It's old, but it's really interesting stuff. Pictures of buildings that are gone. There's a little nest out there. Do you remember the name of this one? I didn't put captions on it, that kind of stuff. And the club information. The clubs were a big deal here in those years. So for people of that age group, they'll find something there that they really like. And about 3 years ago, we completed a history book of Park College and at our 140th anniversary. And that has really renewed a lot of interest in school history. It's full of pictures. This is going to be yours. So.
Oh, well, thank you. I will definitely enjoy that.
We were kind of stuck here in those days. We couldn't have cars unless, I think sophomores could, but they had to have a really good reason. Most of us lived on the campus.
Mm-hmm.
Most all of us did. So we all knew each other. And there's just no escaping the history of this place. It's right there. You could see it. And people ask. So I think it's going to get some interest, not only from the returning alumni, but if people will talk about it and other people will come. It's there for anyone to see. So we have other sections, too, on the clubs, the student work program. We have a section on, as I said, music, which was a big part of our lives back then. So, yes, it's a back then thing, but some kids will look at it and kind of wonder, why don't we do that anymore?
Right. Well, there's a lot of interest, for instance, this year in the 50th anniversary of Woodstock, and so a lot of that happens, and movies come out and things like that.
That was it.
But, Ashlyn, there does seem to be an interest among younger people. My daughter, who's 25 now, 26, she broke her leg a few years ago while she was taking a year off from college, so she couldn't work, and she spent like a month doing genealogy about her ancestors. That is some area that people seem to have some interest in these days and are willing to spend money on it and stuff like that, and newspapers.com. And so do you sense a little bit of that? And it always has seemed to me also that college is where sometimes you discover things that maybe you didn't feel like you had an interest in. Like, that's how I developed my interest in old movies. I took a detective course. They told us we had to go to see this old detective movie. I loved it, and it's been a lifelong passion of mine. That's one of the things that college can bring, don't you think?
I would agree with that. And I would also say that there's so many different areas of history that you can get into. It's hard not to. So I think even if you ask somebody my age, or the typical student age at Park are older adults that are coming back to finish a degree. So that's kind of where we find some of the toughness of getting people interested in Park, just because they're here maybe once a week, twice a week.
Right.
Not that they don't care, but they're not as interested in what they're doing as we are. But especially with ancestry and genealogy, because those programs are becoming so large, because older adults are getting into it, it seems more accessible maybe to the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
That's also my job. It's my full-time job to
Right.
do that, so it's hard for me not to want to do it.
Right.
But Yeah, I would agree with that.
What was and you talked, Carolyn, about the workload of doing this particular exhibit. You have an idea, it germinates in your mind, and then you start to do it. And was this the kind of work-intensive thing that had you having regrets as you started the process, or was it fascinating? Was there a lot of material that was readily available? Did a lot of it fall on Ashlyn? Answer all those questions.
We've done it together, but all of those questions, let's see. No, it wasn't that intensive. We've spent actually 3 years or so since the entire collection was moved into these spaces I have now. We've been spending most of the time organizing everything and mapping the collection that's in the big storeroom behind us. And so we've become real familiar with where things are. Now we can go to a spot and actually find them instead of having to dig through. And other people who preceded me in this work were prodigious savers. And
okay.
We have an amazing collection, and I'm so familiar with it because I've been with it since 2001 that I know where everything is and I know what would apply to the exhibit. And it takes a lot of thought and arranging, but we came up with captions and explanations for some things that folks may not know about. And I didn't see it as intensive, but it was a lot of work. And I think it looks really good.
Well, I got a chance to see the exhibit on the way in, and I do find it interesting. But as I said, this is something that I in general find interesting. And when I decide, I talked to Brad Biles from Communications about potentially doing a podcast on this, and he said back, do you think your audience is one that's going to enjoy this particular type of thing? And I said, well, I run this thing. If I feel like my audience somewhat is akin to me, and if I'm interested in it, then I think they're going to be interested in it. Maybe that's a little egotistical, but whatever. And if not, then I tried. So anyway.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
Before you spend your time and money going after an MBA, ask yourself why. Is it so you can tell people you got your MBA? So you can add a line to your CV? So you can call it a CV instead of a resume? Truth is, any MBA will do that. On the other hand, if your goal is to learn how to successfully manage and grow a business with real-world insights from experienced professionals, well, consider getting your MBA from Park University. Our low student-to-teacher ratio gives you personalized attention, and our face-to-face and online classes offered in 8-week terms are designed with working professionals like you in mind. No wonder the Kansas City Business Journal ranks Park University as the top MBA program in the area. Classes begin June 10th at all 4 KC area locations: Parkville, Downtown, Independence, and Lenexa. Visit park.edu to get started.
For many people, a family law case will be one of the most difficult experiences in their life. The law firm of Kenneth McRae will help you through it. Personal and effective help from Ken in concert with you will develop a unique strategy for your unique case. As Ken always says, divorce can be civil law, not civil war. Licensed in Kansas? Visit McRaeLawOffice.com or call 913-972-4765.
I was duped, and I recommend you be next. For better or worse, the ultra-realistic impression of me sits now in my wife's office to spook her on a daily basis. So what is Doob? D-O-O-B. It's the keepsake of a lifetime, a 3D-generated, incredibly lifelike figurine. 66 cameras take an image at exactly the same moment in any pose, and state-of-the-art 3D technology transforms that into exact replicas of you, anyone you know or love, a pet, whomever is close to your heart. Create lifetime memories with a Doob. Visit their Facebook page at Doob 3D Kansas City, or better yet, see their incredible creations. Visit their location down on the plaza in the heart of it at 231 West 47th Street in KC Mo. Doob. Be next. Sumner One is the company to make your office maximize efficiency. Their family of companies make up one of the largest independent dealers of office technology in the Midwest. They are proud to bring the best service and technology to top companies across the region. Sumner One can help your organization run more smoothly than ever. Sumner One on printers, copiers, MFPs, managed print services, document management, infrastructure design, IT services, disaster recovery, and business continuity. Welcome to the one place where everything works. For more information, call Carl Little at 913-752-2256. Carolyn Elwes, the archivist here at Park University, is our guest, along with Ashlyn Weber, is the archivist assistant here at Park University. The exhibit is called Life and Learning at Park College. Well, with all this voluminous amount of material that you have, how do you decide what goes in and how do you decide what stays out?
Is that a question?
It is a question.
I picked things in particular that I know would interest this group that's returning.
Okay.
And life was completely different here in those days. And we all lived in the dormitories. We ate in the cafeteria. We had recreation in just really a couple of places. The bowling alleys were one.
Right.
And so it's difficult to explain that to today's students who can take classes by computer,
Right.
That type of lifestyle is nostalgic, I think, even for some people who don't understand it or hadn't lived it. It's kind of like, oh, you did what? Isn't it?
Ashlyn, why I'm using you as a reference because you're closer to maybe in here a little bit more of this type of thing. It strikes me, and obviously I'm a person of a certain age as well, that not having the university experience, that commuting and doing things in a computer fashion just doesn't seem to have the same kind of value to me as an actual university experience. I'm not saying you have to live on campus or whatever and so on and so forth, but it seems like that is part of the growth process, and maybe that is reflected here in this particular exhibit as well, that it was more of a community feeling or something like that.
Sure, but I think everything changes with the times.
Sure.
I think that's a similar complaint that I've heard from other people, is just doesn't really feel the same as college did when I was in college, but I think it depends on the person.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you really want to throw yourself into that school, you'll
can
get a great experience. We do have a population that does live on campus and are regular-aged college students.
Right.
I'm not one of them. I don't live on campus, but I still got into this situation in the archives and have been able to have that community feeling. There's so many of us that are really in love with this collection, and that's good enough for me, if that makes
right.
sense.
Sure, yes.
So, again, that's kind of what our goal is. If we can get a really wide array of things to present to the general public, hopefully somebody will find something that makes them feel like they're a part of the school. Some of those pictures out there we both chose together, but some of them I just like because they make me laugh. Or, there's
Sure.
a picture out there in the work program case with two guys holding piglets. I mean, it's just things, it is really, you wouldn't know if you didn't look at it that they were on the Park campus in the 1940s or 50s.
Right.
Animals, yeah.
But it's great. You look at it and you think they're just having a good time.
Right.
So
who doesn't like piglets? I mean,
I don't know.
I don't think that sounds like a sour person to me. There's a picture out there, and I was looking at the sports stuff. Obviously, that's kind of in my area, but of guys playing golf in the early part of the century, and they're wearing like these teeny tiny shorts and a T-shirt. I'm like, that doesn't look like golf wear to me of any kind.
It's just funny.
But yeah, it is funny.
Yeah.
But you, Carol, you said that you sort of designed this for the interest of the class of '69, but it has a wide expanse as well, as I said, all the way back to the turn of the century. So what did you decide to choose that you felt like would have interest to those people that were the inspiration for the thing? But those pictures are certainly not from that place and time.
I think the material related to the clubs will get a lot of oohs and ahs, because people were really...
Give us an example of some of the clubs that would have...
The clubs, early on there were literary societies, which was typical of most old schools, and that kind of died out in my generation. In fact, by my sophomore year, those old clubs had died, and people were creating more fraternal-type organizations. We've never had a Greek system here, ever. And it was considered to be something that didn't fit the school philosophy because the people were elitist and they chose people rather than the people choosing where they wanted to be. So
Right.
our system was different. Regardless, and two of the clubs, there's one called Chestnut, which is named after a dormitory, actually, where the men lived for a while. And one is called the Hermits because they were in a dormitory that was way like a half a mile on the other side of campus out in the woods. So, and those two groups in particular have reunions for their clubs, like a big fraternity reunion. And,
Right.
They were very close. Everyone was close together, and they became, quote, brothers. And so I think the clubs, which no longer exist, our organizations now are mostly service-oriented or subject-oriented. These were social clubs purely.
Right.
And that was something that kept us busy and occupied, and we made lifelong friends. I have people coming in this weekend that I've known for 50 years now.
Right.
And that's what Park was like for us. So that aspect, the music pictures will also generate a lot of interest because we had an extremely active undergraduate music program. People could take a trumpet lesson if they wanted to. If they wanted to learn the trumpet, we could sing in the choir. There were theory classes and a really big part of the curriculum. So that should be something people will enjoy looking at and finding themselves in.
I find it seems today that one thing this generation doesn't get enough credit for the people who are at Park University now is their charitable enterprises. And a lot of the things that we're talking about here, the clubs that was social, it seems a lot of people of a college age really get engaged in raising money for causes and things like that. That seems to be something that is really an aspect of this generation, whatever they're calling it now, Z, that has grown and grown and grown, and I think it deserves a lot of note. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that?
I would agree. I think that's where the difference is, being closer tied to your school, if you're in college, is not so much the case anymore. People are expanding their horizons in terms of things they're interested in. They no longer feel like they need to be tied to what's going on in that area because of social media and all those different aspects of it. You can be involved with the building of the Notre Dame in France. I mean, you can do that because it's your interest, and you're no longer bound by where you are living or where you're from or whatever. So, yeah, I would agree that's becoming larger. I think it's good and bad. You're less tied to a specific area, and you're less likely to stay in that area for a long time. But you're learning things, and you're getting involved with causes that aren't really... You haven't been restricted by growing up, if that makes sense.
Do you see that one thing that I think notice as you grow older, and you'll probably notice this too, is that nothing is really new. You know, if the fashion things come back, and things that were considered, like wearing socks with sandals was really goofy at one point in time. Then it was kind of cool. Then it's really goofy. And, then different kinds of clothes that were hip in the 1970s become hip again. Do you think some of the photographs there for the students of today would remind them that maybe they're not reinventing the wheel a lot of times?
I think some of those photos are ridiculous. But, I mean, there's one in the Science Hall case with a professor who's wearing a terrible, terrible plaid bell-bottom pantsuit.
70s.
And it's just hilarious. I mean, you think these people actually did that. Now, if some people think it's cool, that's great. I mean, I have no problem with that. But we wanted to get all those generations out because you see it and you think, God, I've never seen that before in real life.
Well, Carolyn, you'll like this. I remember in 7th grade, a bunch of my friends and I went to the mall. It was one of the first malls in America, actually, in Framingham, Massachusetts. And they all bought Nehru jackets. I don't know if you know what a Nehru jacket is. Yeah. That, and I didn't. For whatever reason, I didn't. And 4 months later or 5 months later, they were all stuck with a Nehru jacket that nobody was wearing anymore. It's really kind of, when you look at it now, it actually has a certain look to it, and I think it's actually been used since then. But that's the kind of thing I think that is fun from that period, and I can still remember wearing a canary yellow shirt and red corduroy bell bottoms with the matching yellow stripe to the first day of school, and so those things are a lot of fun and provide a black and white photo doesn't do those. But you're right, plaid in general, plaid doesn't usually work very well, does it? Actually, the look on your face says it all.
Not the fitting and the style of the suit that it was put on.
What were some of the discussions between the two of you like? You seem to... I've spoken with you twice now, both of you, and sitting here with you right now, there seems to be a kind of unique symbiosis between the two of you. There's clearly some conflict that goes on, but it seems to be genial. What's that like when you're developing an exhibit? I want each of you to answer this.
Well, I think what I try to do is engage the students who have worked with me over the years. I try to make them go everywhere I go and do everything I do so they see what goes on here. So I immediately get the students involved in other ways than just filing, let's say,
right,
or doing the grunt work. I mean, that's part of it too, but I think that's kind of one way to winnow out the ones that really are not going to care anything about this collection. So some students catch on right away that it's really unique for this school, for what it was, this little bitty school for many years, to have so much of its material memorabilia. It's difficult to explain. I mean, you would have to say what you initially thought when you walked into this. And this is one area that I'm responsible for. The other one is around the corner, which is a storage area right now for artwork. We have a small art collection, and then there's a huge other storeroom over there that has the larger pieces in it. So a couple of pianos over there. I mean, I can't begin to tell you what types of things are here.
Right.
So I think that's what I try to do. I think I succeeded. But you were just interested. National was interested from the beginning. And I've had a lot of students really, it grows on them, too.
Yeah, that's what, I guess that maybe as we bring this full circle, Ash, and that's kind of what my feeling sort of is. Until you try something and experience it, maybe you do think of it as, oh, that sounds really boring. I don't think I'm going anywhere near that. And then you get into it, and you kind of go down it's almost like going on an internet rabbit hole, to be honest. I mean, it's just an old-time version of it where you have to actually pick up physical pieces of paper and photographs and things like that. Do you sense that?
I've worked for Carolyn for 2.5, almost 3 years now, so I would agree that a lot of it has to do with interest, but having somebody as your supervisor that has so much knowledge and is really passionate about what she does helps tremendously. I would have loved being in here anyway, but it really helps when we're especially putting on an exhibit or having an event that we're planning, like we have one coming up this weekend for homecoming, that you can just ask any question in the world and she'll know exactly where to find it or exactly what the answer is. When it comes to exhibits only, when there is an idea, she will really give me the ability to just kind of look around and see what I want to pull. She'll see what she wants to pull because she doesn't know what I like to look at and vice versa. But, you know, there are things that we wouldn't have found for each other if we hadn't just gone off looking on our own. So that's really great just because there is a lot of room for collaboration. And, you know, if I don't like that photo, well, that's either too bad it's going in or it's ugly and I don't like it, so it's not going in. But sometimes there is a partnership, but for the most part, she's just kind of guiding me in a certain direction to do certain things, and again, vice versa. I mean, it really it is great being able to work together on something like that, just because we want to cover both of our generations, but we also want to cover both of our interests. So,
and finally, Carolyn, to wrap things up, this obviously is personal to you because you were in school at the time. This is for the class of 1969, but it seems to be so all-encompassing. Really a very cool enterprise, and it seems like this has sort of been a labor of love in some regards, which maybe is your entire job description. I don't know.
That's what I call it. Yeah, it's working on these things is a labor of love for me. I'm really happy that I am in this position, and I think with the help of students like Ashlyn and others, that we have it at a point where somebody else could come in here and find things. Because once it was moved the last time, it was horrible. Things were everywhere. So that's mostly that the younger students who can still pick things up that I shouldn't anymore are very helpful in that. But we have things here that go back to the 1840s when Parkville was first founded. We have 90-some-odd% of it is school-related, but we have Parkville history because George Park founded Parkville.
Right.
We have his newspaper from the 1850s. We have correspondence, you name it, it's here. Everything but their clothes. Well, wait a minute, we do have some McAfee clothing anyway. But anyhow, and one thing that was done here lately did garner a lot of attention is when we moved the Park House up the hill.
Right.
To keep it from being torn down to make way for a new building. So that was got a lot of interest from the news channels and such. And of course, we're always disappointed with how the coverage comes out, but people wanted to know all about that house. Well, what can you tell us? Why is it important to keep it? It's probably it's the oldest tangible reminder of what this school was. It's just a simple little house. It's not a mansion.
Right.
George Park was a frugal man, and that's where he lived for many years. So it's important to the school, to the town, and to the county, actually. And I'm really happy that we saved it.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Klingscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like the Exit Room of Lee's Summit. Come with friends, family, colleagues, or a team to tackle the challenges of this unique escape room.